Welcome back, children, Physics class children. To your teacher, Nabor Richard. We're still looking at our topic of alcoholism. Children, settle down. Whatever you've been doing that distracts you, please keep aside. Let's get focused on what our lesson here, children. Today, children, we are going to look at the effects of alcoholism. But if I look at that, I left with that activity. I want you to get your pencil and we check the answers. Fine. 5 questions were left. Our first question was that the process of turning water and sugar into alcohol, and the answer we said is fermentation. Good. The second one, to name the method of producing pure alcohol, and that is distillation. And the third question, to mention the fungus used to produce fermented alcohol, and that is yeast. And the fourth question, to study the importance of cold water and the process of distillation, and that is to cool and condense the vapor. And lastly, to identify one physical process involved in making alcohol by distillation. We said there are 2 physical processes here. Actually, there are physical changes. That is evaporation and condensation. If you got them right, that's awesome. If you failed 1 or 2 numbers, that's also good. But try to do collection, children. I've already mentioned that today, children, we're going to look at alcoholism. And by the end of this lesson, children, you're definitely going to know what does the term alcoholism mean. Then 2, which condition results into alcoholism? Then 3, what's the effect of alcohol drinking to individuals, families, and communities? And then also, we shall also look at the ways of avoiding alcoholism. And last but not least, we shall also try to review some of the laws related to making, selling, and taking of alcohol. So settle down and be together. So I've already mentioned that we are going to look at the effects of alcoholism and all what it does. So what does alcoholism mean? Our first session here is going to be what is alcoholism? And 2, can you think of who's an alcoholic? You know, may hear those ones. That man is, what that woman is an alcoholic. What does it mean? And he has got a problem with alcoholism. So what does it mean? Check with mine here. We are defining alcoholism as a condition where a person becomes dependent on alcohol. A condition when a person becomes dependent on alcohol. So by having alcohol dependence implies that the body cannot do anything, cannot function normally before taking alcohol. So when you're becoming a dependent on something, so meaning that you cannot do that particular thing unless you take that thing that gave you that strength. So alcohol dependency is a condition where one's body can't function normally before taking alcohol. Then we have the term called an alcoholic. Who is an alcoholic? This is a person who is addicted to alcohol. This person cannot do anything unless he has taken alcohol. In fact, if you try to do something he's supposed to do, any piece of work, he'll be having those problems of shaking, body tremors, and all that kind of thing, unless he takes that alcohol. So my children, don't think of taking alcohol. It's a very bad thing. Which condition results into alcoholism? There are some of the factors here we have here. So one of them is going to be peer pressure. When you take alcohol, because earlier on we talked about why people take alcohol. So some conditions that can result into alcoholism, we have peer pressure, we have idleness, we have frustration. We have family background, we've got stress, we have social environment. So all these problems here or condition can result into alcoholism. So we have a look at our association here. What's the effect of alcoholism exactly? And how does it affect an individual? How does it affect the family? How will it affect your community? Can you think of any of those? I want to give you 1 minute. Write for me one point on each of them. How can it affect an individual? How would it affect a family? How would it affect a community? 10 seconds to go. All right. So let's have a look at some of the effects. We start with the individuals. So how does alcoholism affect an individual? 1, we're saying if somebody drinks alcohol, it's going to make him lose appetite. What does that imply? That this person won't like to eat food. In fact, when you put food and alcohol there, this person will definitely go for alcohol and leave you very good food for you. Secondly, when you drink alcohol for a long time, they are going to get what we call peptic ulcers. These are going to be wounds in the stomach. Because now, remember, in our stomach, we have got those enzymes. And because you don't want to eat food, it implies that the enzyme will start digesting the walls of the intestine. And you definitely develop wounds. And these wounds basically result into what we call a disease called peptic ulcers. 3, when you drink alcohol, it will damage your liver, children. The liver cells are going to be burnt, and once they are burnt, they start bleeding, and you get liver diseases. In fact, that disease is called liver cirrhosis. Say it together with me, liver cirrhosis. Then 4, when you drink alcohol, it can result in self-neglect. In fact, alcoholics neglect themselves. They have no problem with self-neglection. They don't want to bathe, they don't want to wash their clothing and all that kind of thing. They smell bad. That is self-neglect. Then 5, it damages your brain. We saw it early on. When somebody drinks, it's going to affect your mental thinking. You see them staggering on the roads. The brain is going to be damaged. People start vomiting. When you take it, you vomit, which is quite irritating and so on. So, let's have a look at some of this. You can see it, my friends here. Very good food, but they don't want to eat. So rather than just poking a fork in the food, despite the fact that the food is very tasty, it's very yummy, this one even says, oh, please go away, I don't want you. Just because of alcohol. So I don't want to reach that extent whereby you have to shun the food and push it away. Loss of appetite is very bad, children. Then, I've already talked about ulcers. These ulcers are wounds in your stomach. If you don't eat food, those enzymes are going to start working on the walls of the intestine. Eventually, you develop wounds. Those wounds are going to result into a disease called peptic ulcers or gastric ulcers. And they are quite painful and costly. Then, liver diseases. I've already told a normal liver will look like this one here. Very healthy. That's a normal liver. But if you start drinking alcohol for some good time, you see what it will look like? And remember, the liver is our factory in the body. It does so many functions in our body. So I don't want to damage that liver because of alcohol. Then we've got the brain. Oh, I know your brains are very good and sharp as per now. Very healthy. But if you start drinking, the brain is going to be damaged completely. So among the few organs which are going to be destroyed by alcohol, we have got the brain, we have the liver, even the kidney, even the stomach would go. So my dear children, don't think of taking alcohol. Then, let's look at the family. How does alcohol drinking affect the family? One, we're saying when people start drinking alcohol, it may lead to family neglect. So the family is going to be neglected. If the parents are the one taking alcohol, so the family will be neglected completely. Instead of attending to the family members, the father resorts to going to the bars, or the mother goes to the bars, and they attend rather than attend to the children. Then 2, it can lead to poverty in the family. Of course, the money is going to be spent here buying alcohol instead of attending to the family needs. Then 3, it may cause spouse and child abuse. Of course, you have ever seen some of the parents who come back and abuse their children, abuse their wives or their husbands. They beat them up and all kinds of things. That is what we call spouse and child abuse. I don't want to be beaten because that drinks alcohol. What not? The next, it can lead to bad behavior among the children. If people drink alcohol, children can become delinquents. They do all kinds of bad behaviors, and which is very bad. Then next, it can cause violence in a home. Dad is fighting, mom is fighting, children are doing all kinds of things, also are fighting. That's violence in a home, which I don't want to reach. Then we can have a look at also here, loss of jobs. If the man lost the job, resort to alcohol, and this is very bad. Then to the community. How does it affect our community? If people drink alcohol in the community, how would they be affected? One, may lead to job neglect, causing low production, low productivity. People, instead of doing work, they go to the bars at early time. So they end up producing low. They can't produce what they're supposed to produce. Then 2, may cause traffic accident or fatal accidents. And accidents are very dangerous. Vehicles, every now and then, they cause accidents. So if you drink alcohol, you have high chances of causing an accident. Then 3, high crime rate in the society. Alcoholics do all kinds of bad things. They rape, they defile, they rob, they everything you may think of. because their judgment has been affected. Their brains have been affected. It can also lead to increase in certain diseases. That is, for example, HIV/AIDS. Meaning that here, the brains have been affected, they don't lose sense of judgment, you end up engaging into sexual contact with somebody you don't know, and end up getting a disease, which is very bad. Alcoholics also become a public nuisance. Sometimes you could have seen some of them in your community there. They shout, they do all kind of things, they use all kind of languages, all kind of abusive things. They say them regardless of their status. Nation may also lose very important people due to alcohol, because the long-term effect of alcohol can also result in death. So we are going to lose teachers, we are going to lose doctors, lawyers, and many others due to alcohol. So children, don't think of that. Look at this nasty accident. Simply because somebody was driving, somebody was drunk. People lost their lives, and so on. So that's alcohol drinking, children. So don't ever think of that. Fine. In our first session here, children, I want you to think of those ways of avoiding alcoholism. What do you think you can do to avoid this problem of alcoholism? 10 seconds enough for you. Check with mine here. We're saying don't start drinking alcohol. Say no to alcohol drinking. Say no to that. Good. Avoid friends who drink alcohol. The peer influence, remember that? Friends can influence you to start doing something bad. So avoid those friends who can influence you to start drinking alcohol. Find something to do during your leisure time. Make yourself busy. Read your books. Go for music. Go for sports. There are so many things you can do than resorting to drinking alcohol. Remember, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. 5, learn more. Learn these facts about the dangers of alcohol and its effects. So having learned the effects of alcohol, I'm very sure you're not going to do anything to do with alcoholism. Then, on our next session here, children, there are some laws in Uganda that govern the selling, the making of alcohol. Can you think of any law in Uganda which govern the making, the selling of alcohol? I know there's one in your mind there. You can think of that one you're thinking about. Let's check with mine here. Fine. Law number 1 says, all forms of home distillation, possession, transportation, and sale of distilled alcohol are not allowed by law. So don't start your own brewery in your home and you think that the government will allow it. No, you'll be arrested. That's for me, I'm just trying to make my brewery. Don't make a brewery in a home. It's not allowed. 2, bars where alcohol is sold should maintain standards as laid down in the public health law. In fact, these bars should open and close at a specified period of time, which is actually contrary to some of our bars in Uganda here. You find that bars can open as early as 6 and then they close as, in fact, late. Some of them even don't close at all. And that's against the law. In fact, the law says this bar should open and close at a specified period of time. And this bar should maintain standards as laid down in the public health law. Now that we have got COVID in the country, in fact, all the SOPs should be followed properly if people want to start drinking. 3, this is very vital here, children. Persons under the age of 18 are not allowed to drink alcoholic drinks in public places. Now here there are some who say public places. Now we should drink at home. No. If you're under 18 years of age, don't drink alcohol. Persons under the age of 18 are not allowed to drink alcoholic drinks in public places. Not even being sent by your parent to go to a bar. No, don't allow that. In fact, if they found you in a bar to go and buying a bottle of beer, they are going to arrest you. So never think of that. And this is the law that concerns you children. Persons under 18 years are not allowed to drink alcohol in public places. Then law number 4 says, driving motor vehicles under the influence of alcohol is prohibited. Driving under the influence of alcohol is not allowed. I know some of you have said, there's that thing called the kawunyemu. It's not called the kawunyemu. It's called the breath analyzer. So that thing, the policeman puts in those drivers, they suspect to have taken alcohol. It's called the breath analyzer. Detects how much alcohol somebody has taken. very bad to drive a vehicle when you're drunk, because so it can cause accidents. Fine, children. Thanks for being good children. I'm going to leave with some little activity here, as usual. A few numbers from what you have learned. Remember, you have been looking at the effects of alcoholism. So, question number 1, to define for me that term. Question number 2, to mention for me any 2 body organs which are going to be affected by alcohol drinking. Then 3, give 1 way alcoholics can affect their families. And 4, why would a policeman arrest a boy, P6 boy, if found drinking alcohol? And lastly, how does alcohol drinking affect motorists? Thank you for being good children. Take care, stay safe, stay home.